Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of the Shabby And Man podcast. आशा है कि आप सब सही सलामत यानी कि कुशल मंगल होंगे. So in other words, I hope that this new year is treating you well and all good things come your way.
This is where I was supposed to do the official introduction, I think. Welcome to the Shabby And Man podcast. We are partners, parents, podcasters, broadcasters,
and everything else in between. Good to see you smiling today after last week's podcast.
Yeah, I am smiling, but then I do have a blocked nose today and a bad cold.
Tears of a clown.
No, yeah, probably that too. What are we talking about today?
Well, I'm going to call this episode Who's Sari Now? Because I read that in London, in a couple of months' time, there's going to be a Saree exhibition. And I thought we'd never talk about ethnic clothes, Indian things. Let's do an episode on saris.
Because this isn't a fashion podcast, that's why we don't talk about those things.
I once used to write on fashion things, and let's face it, we went to enough fashion shows. Do you remember?
That's true.
We really used to go. Didn't you actually do the first ever Lakme Fashion Week?
I did.
You hosted that, didn't you? So fashion, we should know a bit about fashion, really, if we think about it. So let me just tell you about this. It's called Offbeat Sari, and it's going to be held in the Design Museum in London, and they've got a whole collection of saris. They've got I just know the famous ones, which are like, I think they've got that Sabyasachi designed sari which Natasha Poonawalla wore to the Met Ball.
Yeah, that was a couple of years ago, right?
It was all over the papers. I think it was a few years ago. And they go back quite a long way. They've got, I think this is 2010, I remember this, that Tarun Talani's, he had that foil sari that he made for Lady Gaga. Do you remember that? And they've got Abu Jani and Sandeep Khosla's ruffle sari which Deepika wore to Cannes. So a lot of famous saris there, which you can see in the Design Museum.
Yeah.
So I think you wear heavy. I'm guessing here. You're going to correct me. Banarasi saris. That is your fave sari, if I'm not mistaken. Because I remember you have that photograph. Or you always tell that story of your nani's sari. Is it your nani's sari?
My nani's mother.
Your nani's mother's sari, which you wear.
Yeah.
Which is over 100 years old.
Yeah. My mother's nani's sari, which was a part of her bridal trousseau. It's over 100 years old. It's a Banarasi silk. It's got work in real gold, which has now become very matty, and it's the shade of gold that I really love. It's not that bright jhakas yellow, but it's almost like copper, which is absolutely beautiful. And this harks back to the time when saris were worn differently. They were a different length. There was a double pallu. It's got a double pallu design.
But saris always worn differently. I think the Gujarati sari is different from the
Bengali sari is different. Yeah, there are many ways of draping a sari.
First tell for your uninitiated listeners, what is sari? Is basically how many meters? What's the length?
It varies. It can be anything from 3.5 yards to 9 yards. Essentially 5 meters, 5.5 meters.
The whole 9 yards.
The whole 9 yards. 5.5 meters is the average length of a sari, and I think the reason why it's so popular is because it is an extremely forgiving garment. One size fits all. There are a million ways of draping it, depending upon how confident you are of your body shape.
Yeah,
sometimes women who are not conventionally thin or model-like, waif-like, even they can look extremely elegant and beautiful and sensual in a sari.
I forgot to mention that this sari exhibition, this offbeat sari exhibition is all about, it's promoting female empowerment.
Yeah. So, and I'm glad you said offbeat, because the 3 saris that you named may be very famous, but let's face it, that's not how most people wear saris.
What today is what? A cotton sari?
No, you're talking about two different things. I'm talking about the style, you're talking about the fabric. So fabric-wise, of course, it can be cotton, it can be silk, it can be georgette, chiffon. There are so many different materials. And I
meant in practicality terms.
Or in terms of which part of India you're in. If you're in the north, where it gets very hot and it gets very cold, naturally a cotton sari is what most people wear in the summer months, right? Or that's what people in the villages wear, those who don't have, because the silk sari is much that much more expensive.
But I remember very clearly going to many sari shops with you. And of course, another one of your favorites is the one from South India, the
Kanjivaram. And yeah, a Kanjivaram silk, as anybody knows, is made from mulberry silk. So it's a very, very typical kind of, silk, which is absolutely shimmering and resplendent. And a Kanjivaram silk actually sells for ridiculous amounts of money if you get one of those which has woven work all over, not just the palla but the main border.
It's actually from a specific place, I think, Kanchipuram.
It is from Kanchipuram, but it is also a specific kind of silkworm. So it has a different sheen and a shine to a Banarasi silk or a Bengali silk. And the thing about a sari is, especially India being the diverse country that it is, you can have a silk sari which is a Banarasi or a Kanchipuram or a Gadwal or a Paithani or a Mysore or a Baluchari or a Maheshwari or a Chanderi. All of these things,
Have you written this down in your hand, or you just know your sari?
No, you just know it, because these are all different variations. Anyone who's a connoisseur would immediately know. And the strange thing is that even if you think of something that from the poorest to the rich people wear, which is cotton, which is the most common and most comfortable fabric in a tropical country like India, you can have a cotton sari which costs thousands of rupees because of the way it is interwoven with certain silken threads, or because of the expertise that has gone into the making of that sari. So it is an extremely versatile garment, but it is also a fashion statement, also
the workmanship,
and a statement of your class.
जैसे हम लोग हिंदी में कहते हैं कि इसका जरी का काम देखना है.
जरी का, हाँ, वही, मतलब एक साड़ी किसने क्या पहना है देखकर, it is also an extremely easy way of the affluent class to flaunt their riches. And again, like, you have to have a keen eye. You have to know enough about saris to know that even if somebody is wearing a cotton sari, it could be one of those which actually is a very expensive sari because of the expertise, because of the way it has been put together and woven, So it is an extremely beautiful piece of cloth, if you think about it.
So the more intricate the artwork, the heavier it is, the more expensive it is. Is that the general?
The general rule is that, silk is more expensive than cotton. And exactly as you're saying, if it is something that is hand woven, anything that's done in a machine, in a factory and mass produced is going to be cheap. Anything that's done specifically by hand, because no two saris are going to be the same.
Do you think the designers do all this by hand?
The designers do most of the stuff by hand. They do a lot of stuff by hand because that is why they're charging you the money, because they're saying that it's actually a person sitting down and,
taking weeks
of either operating the loom or making sure that the threads fall a certain way. It's an absolute skill and a complete art form. And I'm very keen to see this sari exhibition, because I want to see whether they've touched upon the variety, the mind-boggling variety that a country like India offers to any sari wearer.
And I don't think sari is just an Indian garment. I think it transcends all the subcontinent.
Absolutely, the Asian subcontinent, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Nepal, I'm sure. So, and variations of the sari as well. They're probably worn a certain way in certain countries. But it is an absolutely beautiful piece of garment. And many people wear it. Some people, like, I've not had too many occasions to wear it in the UK, because I still feel very conscious, especially if you're taking the tube or if you're going to a place where there aren't going to be too many Asians. I'm still very conscious about wearing something and standing out. Saying that, there are some people
I totally disagree with you. I think you should own it.
No, that's true, but I find
wear a big fat bindi.
It's a bit unpractical, I feel.
Be arty-farty.
Yeah, but then you have to have worn it for long enough to get comfortable in it, and not really. I am comfortable in it, I have to say, much more than my sister or much more than some of my friends who feel that it's very restricting, or they feel that they have to sit a certain way, they have to walk a certain way so it doesn't kind of unravel.
In your news reading days, you had to wear a sari.
I had to wear a sari, and I love wearing it, to be honest. I absolutely love wearing it, because there's now
even so that TV show you did, you were wearing a sari every day.
Yeah. So mostly saris. So it is something which is, I think, very flattering to the female form, and it can be worn, it can be dressed up, dressed down, worn in so many different ways. There is a lady called Dolly Jain. She's a bit of a social media, she's an influencer, but a social media sensation.
With one of those Instagrammers,
but she, I think, became became very famous because she is a professional sari draper. And she has draped the saris for some of these biggest, most famous, whether it's Bollywood stars or industrialist wives or you name it. On important occasions, she's the one who would drape the sari for them, and she has some over 100 different ways of draping a sari. And as it happens, I follow her on Instagram
because Instagram is full of people.
Yeah, every day she wears a sari and she tells you how she has draped it, what she has paired it with, what she thinks would go with it in terms of jewelry and everything else. So she's made it into her profession. She says that I love wearing the sari, and I think there's no other garment which is as versatile as the sari.
Now, if I remember correctly, I'm going back to those early days when I used to write a bit here and there. And I'm sure someone's going to correct me. If you want to correct me, it's Shabby And Man at Twitter or Instagram,
Facebook.
But I think sari is a Sanskrit word, which means a strip of cloth. It's from the Sanskrit, strip of cloth.
Yeah, it could well be.
Or sati or something like that. It was very similar.
And even there is the sari, and then there are different. It belongs to different regions, or it represents the work that you see on a sari represents different regions. Like you can have the bandhini or the leheriya, which is now coming back in fashion. Those who know their saris, they know that the leheriya is something that you wear in Gujarat and in the northern part of India. It's a certain way, the pattern. Bandhini, right? It's tie and dye. It's tie and dye. But
bandhani can be anything. It doesn't have to be a sari.
No, it can be anything. Dupatta, suit, anything. Similarly, the print that you see, most of the things, the work that you see could be on any piece of cloth. But a leheriya sari is something a lot of people wear, and I think Bollywood has a very strong influence on what the majority of the people who want to up their fashion game
or look like their favorite
stars. Bollywood dictates.
As I said,
Indian fashion.
There's that Abu Jani and Sandeep Khosla's ruffle sari which Deepika wore.
She wore it to Cannes, and I think full credit, more than the sari, it was the choker that she wore. OMG, that was like virtually, it covered the top half of her bust, and it was very fashionably done. But then those are purely for the red carpet.
Now, in our day, when we were very fashion conscious, I suppose, it was the Tarun Tehlani's, the Rohit Pals, the J.J.
Satyapal.
So all the people in Delhi who were near us, all the fashion designers were there.
Yeah.
But obviously there's been a big tilt and a change in the recent...
it's all Sabyasachi.
It's all Sabyasachi now, isn't it? Especially if you're getting married or you want a designer.
Yeah.
Is it langas mostly or saris? He does saris as well.
I think he does. I think he's known mostly for saris, but then he does bridal wear. So bridal couture is a lot of lehengas as well. But he's known for his sari. Most of the shops that sell Sabyasachi knockoffs are all saris. And back in the day, of course, Satyapal, I think, had a very big influence in making those very arty saris.
He wasn't Delhi based. He was
Delhi based. Very arty. He used
to do ties as well.
Yeah. So when you saw people wear what looked like a Picasso painting on a sari, or what looked like...
I think he was a decade before we were in Delhi.
But I know that a Satyapal sari
80s
was extremely expensive and very coveted. So... India's had its share of designers who've left a mark on either the way they have made women wear the sari or in the prints that they were known for. In Sabyasachi's case, it is a bit of both. And Sabyasachi has been championing the fuller bodied, bigger woman for a long time. He's always said that a sari is one of those things that has nothing to do with body size. If you have the confidence, you have the oomph, you can carry it off.
I also like the way that Sabyasachi, if you look at his catalogues, he has a lot of darker models.
He does. He goes out of his way to, in fact, showcase the entire Indian color palette. And I think that is another thing unique to India. Just as there are so many different regions, so many different styles, so many different weaves that are often showcased in our saris, India is possibly one of the only countries or one of the bigger countries in the Asian subcontinent where you have the entire color palette, from the peaches and cream light-skinned women who could pass off as Europeans to the really darker toned people, especially in the coastal areas where you get tanned anyway. So it's the entire shade card from 0 to infinity. And how amazing it must be for designers to have that opportunity to cater to that palette. You're not just making colors. I know traditionally there's a lot that people say, oh, darker women shouldn't wear this, or this looks better on someone who is darker or light shaded or whatever. But I think it's just, it's wonderful to see all colors, all shades being celebrated. And again, because a sari has nothing to do with size. It's a free-flowing rectangular piece of cloth. It is all about the drape. It is all about your charisma and confidence and how well you carry it.
So to wear, we have a few friends who seem to champion hand-woven saris.
Yeah.
So does that mean that for that you have to be richer?
I think so. Only because it comes down, the philosophy is exactly the same even here. If you got a bespoke suit from Savile Row, it would cost you a lot more than if you went into Moss Bros. No, is it Moss Bros?
Yeah, but I disagree with you totally there.
Why is that?
In the West,
yeah,
that culture of the peg has been around for a long time.
No, I know, but
in India, you go to a local darzi, it's not more expensive. It's probably the other way around. There, it's probably more expensive to go to some high chain store and buy it.
No, that's true. That's true. But I think even in India, the trend is now reversing. Anything that is handmade, hand stitched, anything that needs expertise which cannot be replicated. You cannot have, if somebody stitched a suit for you and only for you, it's going to be the perfect fit only for you, for nobody else. And I think in case of a sari, like I said, it's not about the fit of the sari, but it is about hand embroidery, hand stitching, weaving it in such a way that no two saris, despite the same color palette, despite the same threads being used, are ever going to fall the same way, because the loom is always going to add its own little, quirky difference to it each time.
19-20
यहाँ हो गई तो उसी के लिए you pay for that. And I think the world is now waking up to the fact that while the Industrial Revolution was absolutely phenomenal in the way things changed and things were mass produced, the art and the beauty and the craft actually lies in doing things manually that can't be replicated by machines. And it's more true of the sari than anything else, I think. Or as true of the sari as any other craft which really flourishes and comes into its own when it's handmade.
When it's bespoke.
Bespoke.
Okay, so we've talked about saris.
Yes.
You want to talk about petticoats?
No, blouses? I don't. No. Dolly Jahan, by the way, that Instagram influencer talks about, she's released her own design of a petticoat. It's called the D-coat, and she talks about that as well, about how important it is for the underskirt to be a certain way, for it to fall a certain way. But no, let's not go there. Talking about blouses, here we were thinking we're being very adventurous when you have a very exciting backless blouse or a very sexy neckline or whatever. Now you have people wearing saris with shirts and tank tops and boob tubes and God knows what else. So even the sari has come a long, long way. It's no longer what you associate with your grandmother and your mother, or a very, very simple everyday wearing type garment. It's now gone places, to the Met Ball for starters.
It went to the Met Ball, I think. Did I tell you it was
Natasha Poonawalla.
Natasha Poonawalla, that's it.
Yes.
It was the first high profile sari.
My God, when you first said let's talk about the sari, I thought we would be done in about 8 minutes. I can't believe it's going to be nearly 20 minutes. But that's how passionate I am about a sari, which I don't wear very often. I've got suitcases full of saris, a wardrobe full of saris.
Why don't you do what all those other people do? You should wear one a day on Instagram kind of thing.
No, please. That's too much hard work. Let me give you a fun story. When I came to this country, there's a piece of advice that your mum gave me, my mother-in-law. Your mum got married and came here in the 60s. And she always said, naturally, she is from a certain generation, our parents' generation. And she must have come here with a lot of saris. And then she must have adapted to the English way of life and started wearing trousers and dresses and all the rest of it. Wearing the sari here and there. And so mum said that, since you're coming from India, here's a word of advice, only bring your favorite saris. Don't bring too many because you won't have so many occasions to wear it here. And she was absolutely right.
And you must have thought, no way.
She was absolutely right. And I said, yeah, don't worry, I'll only bring a few. Over these last 20 years that I've lived in this country, those few have turned into at least 100, I think, maybe more. Because every time I'd go back home, I'd be given saris and, okay, while I'm buying all the other stuff as well, एक या दो साड़ी, whether it's my sister, whether it's my mom, whether it's for birthday or puja, or because if you the next time you're on stage, the next time you're hosting something, वो करते 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 20 साल में मेरे पास भी कम से कम 100 साड़ियाँ हो गई हैं. And I am sad about the fact that I don't have a daughter. I have no idea what my daughter-in-laws are going to be like, whether they will at all want to wear a sari, that to their mother-in-law's sari. I have no idea what I'm going to do with things that have meant so much to me, especially that one sari which I guard with my life. As we started with that, which is over 100 years old.
Oh, I thought you were going to say one of the ones I got you.
No, you've got me many saris, so there are too many of those. But the one that is over 100 years old and still absolutely flawless, untarnished, quality speaks for itself.
And it only comes out at special occasions.
Comes out at special occasions. And let me tell you, those who know about saris, for instance, a bit of a humble brag here, when I was hosting the show with Shabana Azmi and Javed Akhtar Sahab, the first thing Shabana ji said to me when we all got dressed for the stage and met backstage, she said, "Oh my God, that looks like an amazing sari. Where did you get this from?"
Are you sure it's not just PC?
No. I said, it's not mine. It's my mother's Nani's sari, and it's over 100 years old. Even then it was 100 years old. I'm sure it must be well over 100 years old now. Well, that's it. I think it's time to wrap.
Well, why don't you tell everyone?
Well, get that? Wrap, Sari?
I did.
Yes.
So, started to think of something witty, but words fail me.
Yep.
Do you want to...
tell people where to buy their saris from?
Maybe tell them where to subscribe and like, maybe.
Yeah, once you worn your sari and you want to flaunt it, you can always send us a picture, of course, or you can send us a message. Well, we're on social media, on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. Shabby and Man podcast is the official handle. And until next time, are you going to post another clip from our 26th Jan episode for the 100th time as a rerun?
But talking about being on the ball, 26th January, Sari, jahan se Accha.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. Exactly. Hindustan hamara. Until next time, then, should we say Jai Hind?
Let's say Jai Hind.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.